Check, check, hello. Hello, good morning. Hey Mel, we're live. Yep. Hey guys, what's up? I like the... What's up, Paul? I like the putting my wife on the spot, telling her, hey, we're live, and she says, we're eating. I'm eating.
I am.
Well, you can add some extra crunch to the show this morning. What's up, Brad, Paul, Alina, Rachel? Devin is cool. All right. Today is an awesome show. Just like every day. Would I ever say today is like a mediocre show? No. I don't think so.
You mean mediocre?
Mediocre.
So I love how you check your hair in the live feed.
Oh. Is he talking to me or you?
I know, I'm constantly like
early.
doing my bangs like that.
It's like a mirror. That's all. All right.
Into your soul.
Into your soul.
Okay.
Texting me, people.
You put it on sleep mode.
Yes, on yours. I did. Not on mine. I don't get any text on the non-work phone. Okay. Let's see how that works out for you in the end. That's right. All right. Ready? Your eyelashes are very curly. Crunchmaster 3000. This is boring content. People watching you eat. But I shouldn't have started.
You're the
it
one who
live, though.
started it.
All right. Today is day 31.
Ask for...
Okay, if you guys got any questions
Questions.
today, we're going to talk about male emotional intelligence, which is a really good one. And I have some thoughts on that. My wife is cheating on me, and gift lists make me feel terrible. So, I wanted to do an episode. Maybe I should talk about this in the actual podcast so more people will listen to it. But I'll tell you guys because you are gracious enough to join us in the pre-show, pre-funk, which the podcast listeners don't get this stuff. I wanted to do another episode about reparenting and really talk about that in depth. I've talked about it a little bit. I do that in my sessions.
Want to hear my idea?
Sure.
You can talk about reparenting, but I had this idea.
All right.
I want to have a PhD.
Yeah. A post hole digger?
Get out of town!
Okay, what?
I should make a podcast while I get my PhD. And all of our content is just that.
And you just document the whole thing. The process is the content.
That's right.
I've been telling you that forever. Anyway, back to the show. What's up, buddy?
I would be Dr. Studley. Let's start this thing.
All right, let's start this thing. One of my best friends just joined. What's up? We're going to be in South Carolina in October 15th, so we can hang out.
Go to Tryon, get some people.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Why don't I hear anything though? Check, check.
Check, check, hello.
What am I? 4. Check. Why am I 4? You plugged us in backwards. Okay, check.
I don't think it matters.
Does to me.
Check, check. Everything's on.
Check, check, check. Okay.
All right, let's go.
Oh,
Let's do it.
Here we go. Hello and welcome to the Anatomy of Marriage podcast. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
Good morning, my name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and today is day 31 of 100 days of AOM Q&A. And today's title is Male Emotional Intelligence. My wife is cheating on me, and gift lists make me feel terrible.
If you're new here, welcome. We have over 200 shows covering all sorts of marriage and relationship topics, including our own journey of nearly getting divorced. And you can hear that in season 1. And as always, our show is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/anatomy of marriage to get your free audiobook. And today we're going to have lots of audiobook references
Oh, really?
with this conversation. So yes, please get an audiobook on us using that code.
Yeah.
And although Seth is a licensed marriage and family therapist, do not use this in place of actual therapy. It doesn't work that way, folks.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So let's jump into the review of the day. Okay, 5 stars from Haley B24. Wow, this is real. I love hearing you guys disagree, sometimes snap at each other, but ultimately love and support one another as you talk about really tough subjects. I have learned so much listening to this podcast, and it's helping me to prepare for the hard stuff so that when it comes, I am more equipped to handle it. The resources and advice have been so helpful for my boyfriend and I, learning about our family of origin, discovering how our brains work differently, and helping us to get through arguments more efficiently and lovingly. I feel so prepared for marriage because of this podcast, and I would recommend it to anyone, single, married, engaged, or even if it's complicated. Thank you for being real and sharing your story. Haley B., you are welcome. Thank you for that review.
Yes, thank you for your review.
You are going to love the premarital series that we are working on right now with videos, podcasts, workbook, everything. So you're going to love it. All right. Let's see. I am thankful for the weekend and us hanging out. We hung out with really good friends, and it was awesome. So.
All right, a little gratitude in there. I wasn't ready for that one. I'm thankful for that as well.
Cool.
Question.
Why are you looking at me weird?
We're not doing that, remember?
Sometimes we do.
Apparently. So the question number 1, it says, you had mentioned doing an episode about male emotional intelligence, and I think that would be a great idea. It would be wonderful to present both sides from the male and female perspective, meaning what a husband is thinking and how a wife can process it in order to help communication. It would be great to also help potentially spot triggers and avoid flooding the husband. The blend of real life experience and scientific therapy terms is really enlightening. Thanks again.
Great. So we talk about flooding. We talk about pursued distancer dynamic, which is really interesting. And a lot of these things, when paired together, flooding and the pursuer distancer, when the wife wants to get answers or wants to feel emotionally connected, can sometimes push men away, right? And maybe it's not about emotional intelligence, because that makes it sound like women are more emotionally intelligent.
Who said that? You inferred a whole lot just there.
No, I was talking about
emotional intelligence
is
a thing. It's not. This is referencing the conversation about, we talked about emotionally being intelligent, like a 13-year-old boy, like a 5th grader.
Oh,
emotionally, a 5th grader in the closet.
I was thinking of a whole
like
different
5th graders
aspect.
Emotionally, you were like, you have emotionally developed to the level of a 5th grade boy, and then all of a sudden you get shamed for showing certain emotions.
Mm-hmm.
You get told that boys don't cry. You get told all these things, and so you repress and suppress those things. And so emotionally, as a man, your emotional intelligence is not fully formed.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Not that female emotional intelligence is like better.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I was thinking we should have looked up the definition of that so we could
of what.
Emotional intelligence, to have kind of a baseline that would help my brain.
Well, essentially, emotional intelligence is the emotional version of IQ.
Yeah.
Like,
so we were having a conversation a while, I don't know, just maybe like last week around this, about when men, or just people in general, we're talking about men here, do get flooded and do have that kind of response. We really do go back to a 13-year-old or 11-year-old boy, kind of like maybe back to the time when we discovered in our maturation growing up, like, oh, this behavior isn't okay, whether it's crying or
you didn't discover it. That was put onto you.
That was put on, or just discovered, like, oh, that's not okay. So that's a discovery of like, oh, okay, I can't do that. Maybe you were made fun of, maybe you were put down, or that part of you was repressed, right? And then that just kind of lies dormant for a while, and then you get into a relationship, and the emotional intelligence, or acting out that intelligence, is important, but we don't know how to handle it. We don't know what to do. And then you kind of go back to the 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, and that's what you're talking to.
Yes, essentially all it is you can only perform to the level that you've trained, and you have only trained to the level of an 11-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. So emotionally speaking, when a 40-year-old man feels upset about something, and the only emotional outlet he has is the emotional skill set of an 11-year-old boy, that dissonance causes a lot of problems. And one of the things I was just listening to today, I was listening to the Therapist Uncensored podcast, which everyone should listen to. It's super like neuroscience based. It's nerdy. I love it.
Is that the one with the 2 women in
Sue Marriott?
Texas?
Yeah, okay. I want them on the show. But they were interviewing Esther Perel and talking about masculinity. And one of the things that she was saying is that, women are socially taught to socialize, to be thinking about what other people are feeling, and to be that emotional piece and like the stand-in for other relationships. We have, sleepovers where we talk about our feelings and who we like, but boys don't have that. They are taught to not do that. They're taught to suppress all of that and repress it. And so it was a really insightful episode. I can't remember what it's titled, but I'll share it. But you should check out Esther Perel's work on her name looks like Esther Perel, but it's Esther Perel. And her work on masculinity is really good. But the whole idea is, he's saying, let's talk more about that version of the 11-year-old emotional whatever, and then how it looks from both sides of the male and female perspective. And I will say, because women are taught to be emotional and relational beings, we are like literally taught this. Everything from what our dolls look like, what our dolls do, like our doll, like Barbie is a vet. Barbie works at a salon. Everything is like relational, emotional, all of that stuff. So when women are habituated to be thinking globally and emotionally about all of these relational, interpersonal things, they think men are just these total idiots because they're like, you aren't even thinking of me. They haven't been taught to think of you. And again, this is very generalized. I'm not saying every man or every woman is this way, but that's one of the biggest hurdles for women, I think, is that they lack respect for their partner because they think that their own emotional intelligence is just something they were born with, right? I know and feel this. Why don't you?
Yeah, and you may get upset, like, well, what are you thinking, or what are you doing, or why can't you X, Y, Z, right?
Yeah, and even like we have a question down that's coming later where it talks about birthday gift giving and making lists, like, and that totally ties in. We'll get there in a minute. But so, what are your thoughts on the male and female perspective of emotional intelligence and all of that? Like, do you have different thoughts on that?
Well, I think a good way to increase male emotional intelligence and to kind of show up and be present. And I can only speak from my experience, right? And I found, because I was habituated in that way and culturally grew up that way, I have found that the idea of reparenting and doing a lot of self-work has helped me to become more emotionally intelligent, I guess. Like, but that doesn't mean like I'm, super great at it, because I think, when was it? It was yesterday. You asked me what I was thinking, and usually I'm like, I don't know, nothing. We were just like driving somewhere, and then you asked it a completely different way. You said, what did you say? You said, hey, what do you think about this thing that we're doing later? So it was like, okay, there's an action, rather than like, hey, there's a blank sheet of paper, tell me about the paper. I'm like, there's nothing on it, it's white, right?
Yeah.
Or tell me, how do you think that paper got made? I'm like, oh, well, trees, or it could be recycled fiber or hemp or whatever, so like, and what is that called? That is called asking leading questions rather than open-ended questions. So I don't know. That's about the only thought I have on it right now. Brad says, and they don't understand that their husband has a lesser emotional IQ. In some cases, but again, it's not like an IQ, like, X person is smarter or more intelligent. It's more of a skill set that has been fostered and nurtured in women, I guess.
Yeah,
eyelash anything.
It's been cultivated. We have been literally taught to think emotionally that way. And the thing that comes up in my mind when I think about how do we go back, and if you're a man or a woman and you run into this, like, you realize, crap, I am emotionally 10 years old. What do I do? What I would say you do is you have to start at that place. I'm going to use a really weird analogy, but it makes sense in my mind. So I know how to drive a stick shift, right? But learning how to drive a stick shift or a car with a clutch is complicated. It takes time to figure that out. You don't like learn it in one day and then you just kill at it forever. Like, all these variables make it harder. If you live in Seattle and you drive a stick shift and you go up, First Avenue and the hill goes, wah, there's a whole set of skills that you have to learn over time. But you have to be in that car, using that clutch, going in different roads, doing all that stuff to learn the skill sets.
You have to do the work.
Yes, you have to practice that to figure out how it works. And so if you find that you are emotionally a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old, you have to go back and figure out, what is it about this 14, 10, 11, 12-year-old that doesn't know how to take the next step into whatever emotional thing it is. And you can use your relationship as a sort of like the check and balance. Like, your partner says, every time I do this, you shut down. So then that's your cue to go, okay, wait, I'm shutting down. That's like saying, I'm going to park my car. I'm not going to go up this big hill because I'm afraid. That's like, I'm going to stop learning.
So this can also going to go therapeutic here, this can also be a real cue to, you take all this data, like if your partner's saying, hey, when we talk about this, I see you tending to shut down, where are you going in that spot? So it's not like, oh, I go exactly to the 10-year-old. It's not like, it's sometimes it's not that clear, but it can be traced back to a majorly traumatic event, obviously, or a small kind of slow simmer of events that kind of just shut you down.
An avoiding. For example, and I love my parents; they're wonderful. But like my dad, after I hit puberty, it was like my dad was like, I don't know what to do, which is really common. And so he would do all these things with my brothers, teach them how to change engines in cars, blah blah blah. But I never learned any of that stuff. And so there is a thing that in my brain happened that I transferred onto Seth when we got married, because I had stopped relationally and emotionally developing in regards to men. Around the time I was like 10, 11, 12. Like I didn't have that skill set. And so I had to go back and figure out what is it. And that has been part of our marriage journey, is me understanding like either my hurt or my resentment and not projecting it onto you, and understanding it's from when I was younger and whatever.
So, and a really helpful tool, as I've talked about it before, is the process of reparenting. And I'm thinking that I would love to do like a guided kind of meditation of reparenting, and it is really powerful. And every single time I've done it or even thought about it, like people cry because you're going back.
Very powerful, yeah.
It's absolutely very powerful, and it's very healing too. And it's so important, and I love it so much. And I'm so glad that I got to do it a couple of times myself. But what I'm saying is, if your partner is saying like, hey, I see these patterns, then you have to do the work, not your partner. Your partner's not going to do it for you. You can't blame them or whatever. You have to do the work and go, well, okay, so wait a minute. Where did I get this story? Maybe it was when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I've been reading that book, Take Control of Your Life by Mel Robbins, and she does these sessions, and she talks about that. As we've talked about it before, it's like anything in your past that isn't resolved, it will come up later. It will manifest in some other way later that will cause you to be like, why am I stressed out?
Yeah.
Why can I connect with other people? Why do I do this? Why do I have these certain coping skills? It is always traceable back, which makes a lot of sense. And I like the idea of that as a therapist, to kind of like go and dig up and puzzle piece it together.
And so in a way, another answer to that emotional intelligence is to gain your own information about emotional intelligence. Read books like, there's a book called Emotional Intelligence. I think it's by someone Goleman, Daniel Goleman. I'm going to read it. I just got it in my wish list on Audible. But
I don't know.
So there's Dr. Dan Siegel is a good person to go to for emotional intelligence ideas. But start thinking, learning, reading, and getting this vocabulary in your brain. It will help you. So next question. Thank you for the question.
Yes.
By the way. My wife of 18 years is having an affair with a guy from work. I love her and want to continue with her and our kids, but she seems confused and I don't know what she wants. We went to therapy once, but she won't do couples therapy. Instead, she started therapy to straighten out herself and the mess in her head. Those are her own words. How do I proceed? Do I show her love by backing away from her and giving her time to figure out what she wants? Do I show her more love by expressing my feelings or my love to her? Since she meets her affair every day at work, they are getting time together, which makes me frustrated. She also creates ways to randomly end up in his neighborhood or bring one of our kids to play with his kids. I feel sad when she does this, and it feels like she's trying to make me push her away. Is it due to bad conscience? I don't know what that means.
Perhaps you can bring this up in one of your episodes. Okay, so there is obviously a lot here.
Yeah.
And we're not going to say, oh yeah, do this, or you should do that, or here's the reason. We can just give a little bit of insight into it and like kind of speculate why the affair began. It probably began, I bet it began emotionally. So what were things going on in your guys' relationship? Not having enough time together, kind of drifting apart? Were other interests and or duties getting in the way of you guys connecting together? Work, kids, school, whatever it was. Because an affair usually just doesn't happen like poof. It happens like over a long amount of time, right? So what was not happening? I'll go back. What was not happening in your guys' marriage? Were you having sex? Were you going out to dinner? Were you talking? Were you connecting? Were you arguing all the time? How's your communication? Are you critical of her? Is she critical of you? You know, why is she looking elsewhere for that? You know, and how have you contributed to it, right? This is a very sticky situation. Does she want to be married still to you? I mean, obviously, it sounds like she is in an active affair right now, which I understand would be totally devastating and killer, right? So it's like, if she doesn't want to go to couples counseling, I'm glad that she's doing individual counseling. Hopefully, it's a good counselor and saying, what do you want?
Yeah.
Do you want to be married? Do you still want to be a mom to your kids and have this? I mean, obviously she'll be a mom, but you still want to raise your kids in one house? Or, you know, are you thinking under the guise of like, oh, well, the grass is greener over here and we can make this work? Because relationships born out of affairs usually never work. I don't know the stats, but it's like usually never ever works out.
The two things that come to my mind in this question are boundaries and dopamine. I will explain what I'm saying about that. So like Seth was saying, he was asking what was lacking in the relationship. Were you going out to dinner? Were you whatever? Or were you fighting all the time? So read the book The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg? Whatever. Someone Duhigg. Chuck Duhigg. So read the book The Power of Habit, because he talks about the way our brains are wired for habits. Like we have a reward system that is dopamine is our reward system in our brains. So when we eat something sugary, our brain goes, ah, right? When we do heroin, our brain goes, ah. When someone touches us sexually and we like it, our brain goes, ah, right? So that is a reward system. It is like physiological, wired in our body, right? And so the thing, why I'm bringing up that topic is that what's his name? Science Mike talked about this in season 1 of our podcast in the Science of Love episode, where he talked about there's a study of interactions 5 to 1. For every one bad interaction, you have to have 5 good interactions, right? So you can manufacture that in your relationship by saying, if I want to stay in this relationship, I need Seth to have dopamine. I need Seth to have a reward for being in a relationship with me. So if I'm a total B all the time, which I used to be, if I'm that way, he has no reward for being in our relationship. And his brain is going to say, wait, see that beautiful girl over there who doesn't say I'm an idiot of a husband? I'm going to just stare at her for a while. Oh, see the porn on my phone that doesn't talk back to me and doesn't make me feel shame? I'm going to go look at that because it gives my brain a reward, right? So we need to start thinking like a few layers in, physiologically, biologically, and that will help us understand that there are simple, I say simple because it's really a basic pattern, like a feedback loop of dopamine. But I can, as a wife, invite Seth into a better relationship with me, where an affair will look less appealing because I will be giving him his dopamine reward, if that makes sense. I know obviously you're beyond that point where your wife is doing these other things with this other person, but that's where you can say, I can start there. I can give you dopamine, and that looks like a million different things. That could be, you don't want to just think about the physical part of it, like I can touch you, I can say you're beautiful, I can whatever. There's a million ways. Go on a hike and like laugh about the fun things you've done in your relationship, things that really genuinely make you feel like so good deep down inside, which is very hard because it's
I think that might be a couple of months out ahead.
I know, but thinking that way I think is really important. But the second thing that I mentioned too is boundaries, and I'm bringing that up because this is so weird, but it's related to our kids. Like when our children have no boundaries around electronics or play dates or money they can spend, they lose their freaking mind. They become the most discontented children you've ever seen on this planet.
Right.
They hate everything. They're not thankful. They just want more, but it never makes them happy. But the second you put a boundary in place and you say, you can only have a cookie, they're like totally fine, right? So the fear of missing out, the thing I think your wife is feeling probably is this like, well, I don't know what to do. I'm going to go see my own therapist to fix my own mess in my own mind. She needs to figure out what the flip her boundaries are.
Right.
What do you actually want? Don't tell me what you could have, because I could have anything. I could go chase anything I wanted. But what if I had boundaries in place? Then I would know.
Yeah, that's what I was saying at the top of the question. What does your wife want? Does she want these 2 double lives? Because that obviously is not going to work. And when we almost got divorced, I was like, we are not breaking up. That was the boundary. I was like, you can run around and do all this crazy stuff within this little square that I've created, but we are both not going out of that.
Yeah.
And that was really helpful. It helped her kind of like switch her brain, like, oh, okay, he's not leaving. And it helped me be like, this sucks, but it sucks, and that's okay.
Yeah.
This is what we're working through.
Yeah.
So I believe like you guys have to have a real conversation of like, what the F are we doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
And
if you're going to do this, then it's not like that whole dopamine conversation. That's good, but that's like way
yeah,
out
I
in
mean,
the
I just
future.
want to put it in their
So
brains.
it's like, and if she's like, well, I don't know, I just need time. Like, okay, well, you literally have 1 month.
Yeah, give it
Figure
boundaries
figure
on
your
everything.
S out
Yeah.
in 1 month, or else this is it. Because it's just it's out of
People
control.
tear their families apart doing like having no and same thing. Listen to that, The Power of Habit. They use an example of a lady who is addicted to gambling. She started a gambling habit that tore her entire life apart. And it's things like that when you don't have boundaries and you think, well, just but what if, and like that kind of thinking is nothing but death. It is like fueling a flame that will burn your home down. There's nothing good comes from it. Our neighbor's
Those
dogs.
dogs.
Good
Oh my
Lord.
God.
I heard a thing the other day that
They
said
need the dog listening.
smallest dog barks the loudest. Anyway,
Okay, I hope
So,
that's helpful.
yeah.
Right back in if it's not. Okay, we want to do one more question. So-
my husband always asks me for a list for every holiday or birthday. Ultimately, he looks at the list and decides what's the most practical thing to get me. This drives me nuts because I feel like I put a lot of thought into his gifts and it feels like he opts for an easy way out. Does anyone else have this problem? I really don't
need much. I just like something thoughtful. Is that too much to ask? No, it's not too much to ask. What?
I have so many thoughts about this because I hate gift giving. I despise it. And it's something that this was actually really a big pain point for us for years especially around holidays, because I would be like, please don't buy me anything that I did not write on a list. If you buy me something that is not on a list, I will return it to the freaking store. You better give me the receipt. And it was like, I don't want to own something that I don't want to own. I don't want to store it somewhere. I don't want to look at it. I don't want you to have spent your money on it. So it's frustrating to me because he would have all this emotional, like, I put so much thought into this thing that you don't even want. But gosh, I thought about it so much. And I was like, why is this happening? Why do we have to be having this conversation? Because he was putting...
So you are basically the opposite of Melanie in this.
Yes. But I want you to see that your partner's perspective, looking at a list and thoughtfully getting the thing he thinks makes the most logical sense, is exactly what I would do. And I would do that with the most amount of love. I mean, if Seth made me a list, which he never has done, if I said, what do you want for Father's Day?
I hate the list.
If I said, what do you want for Father's Day? And you made a list of 7 things, I would be like, yes! And I would exactly get the most practical one. That is exactly how my brain works.
So...
And it might be an Enneagram thing, a personality type thing, but I would love every second of that.
Okay, so I might not like that. Like, I like it when, for Christmas, you just get me some random stuff, I'm like, okay, in the category...
That is very hard for me to do.
Right.
Also,
in the category of hunting, just get whatever. Like, little stuff, blah, 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 whatever. It'll be a surprise. We're like, oh, this is cool, right? So, basically, this question is the very exact opposite of us.
Yeah.
And... when you say I want this, like you send me an Amazon wish list or something, I'm like, well, okay, there's no surprise in that.
I don't want surprises.
It's not as fun.
I don't want fun. I want exactly what I want.
And I don't like that. And sometimes
I want Apple AirPods and a case for them.
Right.
I don't want anything else.
Right.
But I do want to say, like, it's important to understand that even me going to the store and buying Seth whatever random hunting thing is like torture.
That stresses you out,
It is
right?
so freaking stressful because
this probably
what
stresses
always
out.
happens is I get him a thing and he goes, well, I don't need that one.
But I like the surprise of it.
But he likes the surprise? What? But that's him and that's me. So
That's me, yo.
why I wanted to say, because you just said, I just want something thoughtful. Is that too much to ask? Sweetheart, your husband's thinking of you. He just isn't you. And this comes from a place of, we freaking have been there. It stresses me out now. Like,
we only just got there. You just asked about Father's Day, and I was like, well, maybe we can go to the Boeing Museum of Flight because it's free for fathers on that day, which would be cool.
Yeah. But I will never. It's like torture. I mean, it really just grates at my absolute
And if you want to surprise me, is that too much to ask?
Yeah, because I'll surprise you with some stupid crap you don't want, and then
you
you'll take it back. But you like that? You love to return something you didn't want?
I would not return a scone.
Oh gosh! Let's get you a scone gift card. Scone.
Yes. Okay. So
anyway.
We're at 26 minutes, and I hope this has been helpful. If you want to email with follow-up questions like, "What did you mean?" There's this. Please do that. And every day we're live on Instagram and Facebook. We do a pre-show and a post-show too, so you get extra content that the podcast listeners do not. So join us every day, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I want to remind you to go to audibletrial.com/anatomy of marriage. That helps us out a lot, and it also helps you out. And we can also talk about the books that we read, because we read books all the time. There's nothing more than I would want to do than like talk about the books that we read.
You should have a book club. My gosh.
I have a special announcement.
You didn't hear what I said. Book club.
That's awesome.
What's your special announcement?
I have a bigger announcement than that. So we've been talking about doing, an AOM meetup would be so cool. Let's do this. And there's other talk in the men's group of like having city meetups with not even us there, but just listeners go, hey, let's go get a beer
meetups
together.
Would be rad.
Community meetups, right? So I'm going to announce it, and then we're going to work towards it, right?
Okay.
Reverse engineering,
All
right? We are doing a Seattle meetup, our very first Seattle meetup with Melanie and Seth and other of our friends on July 25th. Thursday, July 25th.
Which is 4 days after my birthday.
That's right.
If you're in Seattle and it's July 25th, I'll make
saying,
you a list.
Just saying. So if you live in Vancouver, BC, if you live in Vancouver, Washington, Portland,
Victoria,
Oregon, or Victoria, come up. We're going to do, we're just going to hang out. We're going to have some dinner, probably some drinks, and I think we're going to sell tickets to it, but tickets are going to be super, super cheap as well. So
why would you sell tickets? I don't get that.
Trust me.
We'll fight about it later.
So, Thursday, July 25th, the very first Seattle AOM meetup. I got to start planning. I love planning stuff, so it's going to be awesome. I was just thinking of posting in the women's group to see if anyone was in my area. Boom, baby. Yeah, do it. So
do it. For sure, do it.
Okay, so July 25th, AOM meetup. I got some work to do, sis.
Awesome.
Sister. Okay, we love you guys. Thank you. Anything else, Mel?
Tomorrow we're going to be talking about body image and not wanting to have sex if you feel unattractive. So join us for that. We're also talking about marriages in an all-time low and how to get out of that. And it feels like a war. So join us for that conversation tomorrow. And then please rate and review the podcast on iTunes. We love to read your reviews on the show. Not only does it make us feel good and it's fun to share, but it helps us a crap ton when you give us reviews and let listeners know if our show is worth listening to. So please go ahead and do that. And for everyone who has done that, everyone who supports us on Patreon, thank you so much.
That's right.
You make this show possible. This is it's just such a gift to us, and we are so darn thankful.
So darn thankful. All right, guys. Love you. See you later.
Have an amazing day.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, yeah, for real. The Seattle AOM meetup. I'm excited about it.
Dallas.
I'm going to pick a really good place on the water. I'm thinking Lake Union, Fremont, probably Fremont area. You know
I want to get pho in Fremont.
There's something on your face. So, okay.
It's probably a beard hair.
No, it's not a beard hair.
It could be.
In Dallas again. Yeah, well, maybe.
That's
my
right.
friend Leslie. Okay.
We did have some really good killer tacos. Okay.
Yeah, that was fun. Okay, guys. Love you.
Have
a
a
good
great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Wait a minute. And